All right. Welcome to our TNT Live. We've been banned from the internet stream because of Justin Trudeau and friends. It's Bill C-18. This is how you have to do news now. So writing down news is now haram in Canada. Justin Trudeau put out a hadith saying written news, you need to pay $1 billion for it to be seen, or else you cannot see it. And then Google and Facebook said no bueno to this. In more serious thing, we'll give an actual breakdown of what went on. This is, let's say, to steelman this, and I'll keep talking, and then Wyatt will eventually get very frustrated and jump in as I take my Trudeau hat on. So put your Trudeau hat on. Or if you don't have a Trudeau hat, just ram your head against the wall until you lose about 23 IQ points, and then listen along.
Or just put blackface on, and that works too.
Yes. You have the big tech companies, which are evil because they're making money. Now, they're not evil when we're doing exactly what they want, but for all intents and purposes, today, this 5 minutes, they're evil. And they're making too much money. And the news media is struggling because they're not making that much money. And the reason news media is not making money in Canada is not because their business model is antiquated, and I can go into that at length. It's because the big evil tech companies are stealing their links. Now, the way big tech companies steal the links of the National Telegraph is we willingly post them onto Facebook and put them on Google, and then people can find them there and come to our site. This is the definition of stealing. This is a crime to Justin Trudeau. By the way, going into a store and literally taking things, not paying for them, and walking out, that's not stealing. This is stealing. So the thought was to make them pay their fair share. Classic commie speak, and in doing so would require these tech companies to pay us for the privilege of hosting their articles. Now, this can be spun in a way that says, oh, we're trying to save Canadian businesses because these tech giants are getting rich off these news companies and they're not giving them anything. And that's not what it's happening. It's the actually reverse. These giant tech companies like Facebook and Google have enabled a system in which online and new media can flourish and come up. And anyone can really start a media company if they, put their heart into it. So that's reality. So Wyatt, do you want to add anything to the general explanation?
Yeah, just a little bit. It's just more so obviously, I guess this is more going into the commentary right away. Obviously, the Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are basing this they think that they can win on this just on the idea that a lot of people do not like big tech, and they'll immediately take the Canadian government side instead of Facebook and Google because they're so bad and they're censorious. So, well, who do we care if they are they're forced to pay journalists money? But as we're going to be discussing it, as we discuss it going forward, obviously, it was never about the money, and it was just about setting a bar so high for Google and Facebook to keep running Canadian news that they would inevitably just delist all Canadian news so that no one can ever see it, because that's kind of what Justin Trudeau wants.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the intent behind it. So you had this entirely fluffed up thing where they can use their commie speak to say, hey, we're saving alternative media, or hey, we're trying to save media. But what they're actually doing is creating the conditions in which tech companies say, okay, we're pulling alternative media. And I always say you have to look at this entire context of Justin Trudeau's leadership, where he paid the $600 million. It's now been over $1 billion in media bailouts, not to mention the $1 billion plus a year, $1.4 billion we give to the CBC. And they get billions and millions of dollars. So they'll be able to survive the government subsidies this wave. But with this growing trend of online media, and online media not being friendly to Justin Trudeau. And it's not just because we're all right-wing. Yes, I think right-wing tends to, you would say, dominate alternative media. I think that's because the traditional media landscape has gone left-wing. So it's easier to come up in this space as, there's less saturation in the marketplace. But there are successful left-wing Canadian news industries like Canada Land, right? Who... I don't agree with everything you say, but, they're the ones who really pushed hardest and broke the most. I believe they did the most on the We scandal. They've been, pretty good at holding Justin Trudeau to account when they think he's doing some wrongdoing, because they're not beholden to any of the government. And this is not good if you're Justin Trudeau, because you have people saying whatever they want in democracy, and that's bad. That's anti-democratic, as we know. So you have them suing Rebel News and True North Media. And then, the only place left where you can go is everyone has online media. Everyone can be their own little media company if you have a smartphone, which everyone does these days. you got to cut that down. So I think this is a somewhat clever way of destroying new media. You can call it, and that's where we are. And Wyatt, you can come in right now, but then I'm going to go on a rant about how the major media companies run stupid online businesses and why they suck.
Yeah, like I was just going to say that a lot of people I've been at least seeing on Twitter, which I guess is now called X, but I'm just going to keep calling it Twitter because it's easier. A lot of people are saying, like, well, obviously Justin Trudeau was trying to get journalists paid and it just backfired because why would he want, the CBC and Global News and all these other legacy media companies that are friendly to him also taken off social media and, like, removed from Facebook and Google? And my answer to that is, well, no, he's done the calculus and he thinks it's worth not having pro-Trudeau legacy media outlets being distributed on Google and Facebook in exchange that independent media doesn't actually get to speak up, or other legacy sources that are somewhat anti-Trudeau, like, the Toronto Sun and, the National Post, that Justin Trudeau thinks that silence is better for him than anyone speaking at all. Because, and just think about the record here, whenever Justin Trudeau goes on vacation and just does something stupid for a while, whenever we don't hear about him, I find that that's when his polling numbers are increasing the most, because people have this idea in their heads that if they haven't heard from you in a while, then you're probably not exactly setting the world on fire. So that's okay. You're probably at least somewhat competent at your job. So Trudeau, to get out of this 10-point polling deficit he's in, probably wants less speech than more speech, even if it shuts down some of his biggest offenders.
Yeah. I think you're right about that, and I think most people can see through it at this point. The people who want to see through it, I mean, the people who don't want to see through it, don't want to see through it. Like, I have an uncle who's an executive at Bell, and we got into a bit of an argument a couple weeks ago or a month ago over this, and he's like, he loves the bill, he's lobbying it for. He's like, I lobby for the bill. I think it's a good bill. Yeah, it has some flaws. And then I said, like, yeah, you're lobbying for it. You're Bell. You're CTV. You get the government money. Like, you take money from me, and you give it to you. Yeah, that's great for you. And he's one of more reasonable uncles, but it was still, like, infuriating where they're like, they had this high, like, they just didn't want to listen to, like, we're screwed. Like, we have a 75,000 plus people Facebook page that we do the news on that we just can't use to distribute news now because the government's ridiculous. So that's what we're going through. And, I know Bell and Rogers were lobbying for this because they told me they were. So they're very happy with this bill. And of course they are, because it's an anti-competition bill when you break it down. Now, they were saying, one of the arguments that he was bringing up at this dinner was, hey, the online models just aren't working. We've tried it and we've tried to make money. It's just not working. I'm like, for you, there's lots of people who figured it out. You can't figure it out, and you're Bell, and you want to change the system because you have an antiquated business model. You want to change the laws to mandate that your antiquated business model never needs to change, and no one else can make money. It all has to go to you. That's the law you're lobbying for, and you have billions of dollars. You're doing it.
And it's not even like it's that difficult, but there's certain people who figured it out, but it's maybe not something you can scale up. The problem with the CBC and a lot of these other, like, kind of large legacy media companies is that they hire local journalists in every single tiny town to basically recover the exact same local issues over and over again. You'll have in Ontario or in Alberta, there'll be some sort of issue that happens in Alberta, and like 5 or 6 CBC journalists will have effectively written the same article. And all of those people are being paid near 6 figures. A lot of these people are getting like $80,000 a year to do a subprime job covering the news. And their actual payroll is so thick, of course they're not going to be able to make money. The thing is that every news company usually has a beat that they cover, but now the CBC, because they get so much money, they just cover everything, which not only means that they tend to be a very bloated company, at the same time, it also sucks dollars away from other media companies because it becomes the easy one to go get your news from. So then it keeps people from wanting to spend money at other independent places or other legacy places.
Because I think that's an issue. That's one thing too, is the heavily governed subsidization of the industry and creating this CBC thing. The other problem is, like, the monetization model for the major companies. They don't really work. Now I'm going to go into this, by the way. The way we have to understand stuff now, if you're in the chat and you support the National Telegraph, we started a Give, Send, Go recently, and we just put it up. listen, we're getting hit. We're getting financially screwed over because we just can't use Facebook and Google anymore. And that's killing our ad revenue. So if you want to supplement the ad revenue, we started to GiveSendGo where you can donate to us and just give us money so we can keep writing articles. Anyway.
I should also highlight that that you should go follow us on Twitter. I'll drop a link to the Twitter in the chat just so that's one of the
Twitter
consistent
too.
places
If you don't have
find
money,
us.
if you could just follow us on Twitter so we can keep, if you like reading the articles, just like they're not coming on Facebook because it's illegal now, follow on Twitter. That would help as well. Okay, so the problem with mainstream media, though, in their online thing is they want to be a subscription-based thing, but then also sell advertising money. You can't do both, right? If you want to, like the way most online media companies are successful, you look at them, is they don't really put much behind a paywall. Like the Daily Wire has stuff behind a paywall, but it's like so extra stuff. Like all the articles you can read, you can listen to their entire podcast, but if you want like the second half of the Ben Shapiro podcast in video, you subscribe. And if you want like an extra 10 minutes of some shows, you get that on the subscriber thing.
Half the time you're paying so that there isn't ads in the video, and it's effectively the exact same.
And you pay to get rid of ads and all that. Like that subscription model makes sense, right? But then you also have the ads, because the ads are really where you have the Ben Shapiro doing ad reads like Birch Gold. You get that because there's no paywall, so you can get new readers coming in and being like, oh, I like the Daily Wire. You don't have that with the Globe and Mail. Like, oh, you get 2 free articles a month. Who cares, right? Like you use that up right away, and then you're like, okay, I'm gone. I'll go to somewhere else, because the news market is so saturated that if you want, like, yeah, the Globe and Mail might break a story on Chinese interference and all that, but for the 2 articles I really want to read in the Globe and Mail a year, I'm not paying for the Globe and Mail. But if it was sort of free and they decided to do internet, like they did video content, like internet style, and like you see the National Post is starting to figure out, like they're making, they're doing Twitter, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, like they're figuring out like, oh, this is kind of the way you have to do it. They have these massive social media followings. They get no traction because they can't leverage these followings. And they're saying, oh, you can't make money with 2 million followers. No, you can't make money with 2 million followers if everything's behind a paywall.
Here's the perfect example. CBC Gem. Who in their right mind is sitting down, getting lobotomized to watch CBC Gem? Think about all the money that goes into the production of CBC Gem shows that nobody watches. And the thing is, when you're posting just crap articles that just blandly report and often misreport the details of random political developments or like the weather, and you're jamming it all onto one page, obviously people are not going to be clicking on it because you've created a bloated Facebook page that doesn't have any specific purpose. If they had CBC Politics, they had CBC Weather, they had CBC Sports, they would be doing far better. But they're doing social media and Facebook the way that you would do it in like 2007, and then they're wondering why it's not working out for them. You can't jam out an article. You can't post a link on Facebook every 5 minutes and assume you're going to get traction. Facebook only has so much bandwidth for people that they can show your stuff to. So when you're just saying, here's 70 articles in a day, how many people are they actually going to be able to show each individual one of those articles when there's people frankly doing the job better than you are on a lot of these, on a lot of this coverage?
Yeah, these are all good points. And like my frustration is like, one with the government, but the government's evil and they hate online media, and they've hated free speech and the free flow of information since 2015. It's nothing new. I'm not surprised. They're twirling mustaches, building contraptions to catch a roadrunner. This is what the government is doing with their time. My frustration is more with the Canadian public who can't see through this on the large part. And it's not, our audience, but it's the mainstream establishment, Daniel's extended family dinners of like intelligent people who just don't want to think anything through. Just don't want to think anything through. Don't want to think about the potential consequences of their actions or beliefs, and are perpetually surprised when I make a prediction that comes to fruition within the next 3 to 6 months.
Oh, I hate that whenever you have people who confront you and you'll say, well, you know what the bill says. Oh, it's not Bill C-18. Oh, you're misrepresenting Bill C-18 because Bill C-18, the Online News Act, says. It's like, it doesn't matter what the stated intentions of a bill are. if obviously the only end goal that would have come out of the bill is getting the news shut down. That's why I say in like the videos I've made in the past, the intention of Bill C-18 is to effectively extort big tech into just shutting down news. And the thing is that they're not even putting a dollar value on how much they want big tech to pay for clicks on articles that we posted voluntarily. We like the free platform because it allows us to connect to our audience. I know Facebook needs to pay us for utilizing that feature. It's foolish, but they aren't even saying the dollar value per click. They're going to force Facebook to basically sit down with both the government and like a newly formed union of journalists to figure out how much per click should cost.
And I'm sure you and I are getting on that union of journalists.
No, we got it. Yeah, I think I got it mailed to me yesterday that I was invited. No, but then take that with Bill C-11, which allows the government through the CRTC to sort of shape algorithms on YouTube and other social media platforms to promote good, clean Canadian content. So effectively,
which is defined in Bill C-36 and the hate speech stuff. Yeah.
So if through Bill C-18, if big tech was stupid enough, frankly brain dead enough to go along with this and pay journalists per click, then Justin Trudeau, it's a win-win for him, because either they shut down all opposition voices and independent media, or if the big tech's stupid enough to actually pay media, they can just shape the algorithm around people that the government wants to get paid. So the thing is, the people would be getting paid would be in the CBC and Global News and whatnot, who are supporting the Liberals' agenda.
We'd all be able to see Sophie Trudeau's TikTok page. That would be what a blessing for the thing. We can watch
not anymore.
Trudeau's family do this. 7 million views. That's the modern world. That's your generation, not mine.
Yeah, you have to watch reruns of, I don't know,
Seinfeld.
Yeah, corner gas. That's all you get. That's all we have left.
I can watch The Office on Netflix over and over again.
You can watch a CBC Gem show about babies.
No, I think my generation's the boring people on dating apps who have no life would have the interest to something about The Office or Harry Potter.
They watch Friends and they pretend it's good because Chandler's going to do some shenanigans.
Yeah, I can see you.
I hate Friends.
I can see that. I'm
a Frasier kid.
Frasier's good. This is my thing. The Frasier reruns. I thought Frasier was a better show than Friends too.
Oh, and Cheers. Cheers sucks. There's no argument. Cheers is terrible. Basically imagine the worst part of any show, but that's the entire show, because they're just sitting in a bar talking, and that's it. And the jokes are terrible.
Nightmare. That's your literal nightmare, is going to a bar, drinking with people, and doing small talk. Like
I know. And they made a show about it, and they have shtick, and
the only thing that would be worse for you is if people start to open up emotionally about that. And guys, if you want to get Wyatt, if you want to get Wyatt off the phone, all you have to do is start being a bit emotional, and he'll be like, "All right, we're done here." It's like, Wyatt, I care about you. I'm really hoping you're doing all right. Screw this. Done.
Daniel, go take some Xanax. Bye.
No, that's a life hack for maybe one person who needs it. So we have the entire Canadian government system where we've gone through the sort of subsidize, attack, and then control the algorithm thing. And the real big problem here is, I'm going to go back, is how a large swath of the Canadian public can't see it. And I'm not talking about the TrueAnons. I'm not talking about the people on Twitter, the fucking Campbell, what's her face, like Vicky Campbell, whatever, who's clearly a bot or whatever, like these Trudeau lunatics who are just out there, instant defense of Trudeau. Like that you get why they don't get it, right?
If anything, they actually hurt him.
Right? But it's more the sort of, just everyday, Canadian consumer just walking around like, it says, all the things are pulled out of Canada. The government's trying to save them, and just not being able to think through this. Like, this isn't like 1 + 1 = 2, but this isn't, next level calculus. This is like finding out what 3 × 4 is. Like, you might not be good at math, but just sit there. You can figure out 3 × 4. Spoiler alert, it's 12. And in this case, 3 × 4 is, Justin Trudeau times legislation, carry the Facebook.
And the thing that's so frustrating about it is that these people effectively have to carry around contradictions in their mind and pretend that there's no contradiction. These people will say, like, well, they're getting journalists paid and whatnot. At the same time, these people don't really realize that they're already paying the legacy media to do a job that they don't even care to do. And when you ask these people, to like, about the plight of independent media not being able to get paid. They're like, oh well, like, like they pretend like you're somehow like asking some great feat for even asking for $5 to survive, even if they don't even know that they're giving like hundreds of dollars to the legacy media every year already.
Yeah, I mean, like if the like this is my frustration. If the legacy media can't succeed in an area where other people with less resources are succeeding, and they're being subsidized to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Because it is
And by the way, C-18 had an extra $300 million in there for the legacy media. There you go.
it's frustrating because like we and we're not trying to apply, but like we don't get this sort of like you can apply as a news agency in Canada. Listen, if we were like two Indigenous, non-binary, two-spirit people doing like news about which blades of grass are growing, we would get $600,000 a year from the government to just do that. If we were like Black Trans Alliance for Ukraine or something.
I'm not even kidding. I was helping someone do some sort of government relations stuff for a nonprofit organization that was putting on an actually very good educational event in the city of Calgary. And when we were talking to local politicians in Calgary, we were told that, yeah, your event looks fantastic. You'll make the city money on paper, and we actually end up making the city a bunch of money on in reality. And they said, this looks like a fantastic event. It's aimed at the right things. It's aimed at getting like people, kids involved in STEM fields and whatnot. And they said, but we can't give you money because it doesn't have like an angle where we're helping like a bunch of at-risk youth put on a slam poetry conference about saving the planet from climate change. If you were doing that, you would have money thrown at you. Even if 5 people show up, we'll call it an amazing success. You could have 1,000 people show up to your thing, and if we give you more than $10, they're going to be like, well, where is the DEI and blah, 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 blah. And it will never end for them. So they're just like, we'll figure out a way of helping you out.
Yeah, Jordan's comment, I like this one. I once had a guy tell me something didn't happen because it wasn't on the CBC News website. I don't know how many times. I think I've done this tweet like 3 to 5 times in the last 2 years, where a story has come out, like a rather big story, and I go like, okay, it's been 24 hours and it's not on the CBC News website. I've made that tweet a couple times where there's a certain story. I can't remember exactly which ones now, but you can all guess what type.
Here's a great one. Just Alberta election. It doesn't matter how many communists were pointed out running for the NDP, like open, let's kill capitalists. Air India was an inside job kind of stuff. All those people like Khalistanis, communists, all these other nut bars running for the NDP couldn't get a single legacy media article out about it. Even if it was a conservative, like a quote unquote conservative legacy media outlet, wouldn't even touch the story. So you had to rely on like the Western Standard and the National Telegraph to cover it.
Yeah, and like this is why independent media is important. And it's one of the things I talked about. Like interesting. This weekend I was speaking at a conference put on by a Hindu organization, and the point I made was like the types of discrimination Hindus face in Canada. Like, yeah, they get it from all sides, but like, yeah, there's some white people who might be mad at Hindus and Indians being like, oh, they're brown, and they go, blah, 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 blah. I don't like them, but that's few and far between, and everyone supports them there. But you have these communities, like the Hindu community, whose real problem is, again, these Khalistanis and, Jamaat-e-Islami proxy groups who are vandalizing their temples. So, yeah, we can all poo-poo this. And I think the left poo-poos and this, but if you, like, it's this weird world where you have the Western Standard and the National Telegraph. We're the only ones covering these, you could say crazy commies, but also like hardcore Khalistani radicals. But these are the guys like vandalizing Hindu temples. If National Telegraph listeners, if white National Telegraph listeners, right, someone had a National Telegraph hat on, vandalized a temple of some sort, right, anything that wasn't a church, front page news, CBC. I am personally responsible. Wyatt's personally responsible. 45,000 years in jail, right? Straight off the bat. But you have these instances where we actually live in a country where people's religious temples are being attacked frequently. Like Hindu temples are often vandalized with like whatever Khalistan stuff on them. There's Khalistanis have like open posters calling for assassinations of different people, revenge killings, glorifying the bomber of the Air India thing. And these are just like the hardcore Khalistani places, and no one says anything about this. And who suffers? It's not, it's not the latte sipping journalists at the CBC. It's everyday Canadians who are just happen to be Hindu. And, it's one of the things that, legacy media doesn't want to talk about is sometimes within our diverse multicultural society, some of those multicultural cultures don't get along outside of Canada. And if we do nothing, they're not going to get along in Canada. But
sorry, I love this follow-up comment from Jordan's amazing. Some dude told some dude told me independent journalists couldn't be trusted because they did it for the money. That's insane. Oh yeah, no. All the CBC people are in it just for the passion.
Yeah,
that's why I do it. That's why we basically do it for free, and the CBC does it for a lot of money per year. It's because we like the money and they don't.
Yeah, because we're just rolling in dough in independent media. You can I'm sure Ben Shapiro makes more money than a CBC journalist. Fine, but he also took the risk, and not everything works out. And he built a company. Oh my god, this is so stupid. It's just probably these people just willingly.
They get people who get this obnoxious moral satisfaction from waving away arguments by saying, well, I didn't see that in the CBC. And it's just this smug, stupid way of just engaging in politics is that, that my side, and if you actually decode that, it's my side didn't tell me that information was correct, ergo you're wrong. And it's one of the things stupid it is. It's one of the things I hate most about if I see something in Canada Land or the Thai or even a legacy media outlet, I don't immediately think it's wrong. I'll look at it, I will investigate the facts, and then I will find out they're wrong potentially. And sometimes they're not wrong. But there's something that tells certain people who really like feeling moderate and they're the ones who have the very socially acceptable in the middle kind of views, who vote for the Liberal Party, who like the idea of just, I base my opinions on the facts and the established experts and whatnot. And if you're from the National Telegraph, well, you're inherently wrong because you're narratively wrong because independent media isn't in vogue. Ergo, you're not correct.
Yeah, this is one of the big things in politics brain that I hate. I always talk about how I hate when people the only people people disagree with me for three major reasons, right? They're stupid. They're too stupid to think like me. They're inherently evil, and their mendacity and malicious thoughts have led them to somewhere I'm not, or they're being paid to think that. And it's there's people with different life experiences. I know liberal people who aren't paid to be liberal. No one's paid to. Yeah, there are some political mercenaries. They exist. One guy who came to my mind. You know how much I don't like him, but I think I blocked him finally.
They don't tend to get paid a lot very well.
They don't get paid. These guys are losers. Political mercenaries do it because they're not making bank. It's not like they're making hundreds of millions of dollars just saying things. Okay, there are some people I can think of that do kind of ham it up, but that's on all sides. But most people generally believe what they believe for the reasons close to why they say they believe them. And there are multiple ways of looking at the world. Everyone has different experiences. You grow up in different places. People have different things. Your third grade teacher was the absolute worst and a sociopath, and that sent you down a life that might have led you to whatever, develop this idea about this, and someone else's third grade teacher was great, and blah, blah, blah. So one's a liberal, one's things happen. But when you have, I just hate this mentality. Again, this sort of oh, everyone who isn't on my side is wrong because they're either stupid, evil, or paid to think unlike me because I'm the greatest thinker ever. And it's the narcissism.
Okay, well, anyways, want to move topics on to the other one that we had scheduled.
Bill
C-18. Bill C-18 is taking up a lot of our time simply because it did come down even harder than when we had originally scheduled this episode to air. So I guess we're just going to talk. I guess you wanted to talk about the Trudeau separation, so I'll let you intro this one because I don't want to disagree
because this is where it's fun. Well, thank you everyone for coming, and if you want to take a look at the gifts and go to make up, we spent a lot of time on C-18 because it's literally ruining our lives. But here's a fun one. I got a real kick out of all the social conservatives getting mad at Justin Trudeau, people making fun of Trudeau for his divorce. I think we should be making fun of Justin Trudeau. I think we should be making fun of his family. I don't think they're off limits. He did the thing where he's don't come after my family. And then the next picture he posted with his son at Barbie. That's hilarious. He's being hilarious. Where you have to give Trudeau some credit here is he's exactly kind of like Donald Trump. He's like the evil Donald Trump or the good Donald Trump, depending on your perspective. They have the same flaws, right? They're both trolls. They both have no empathy for anyone who disagrees with them. And just one's made to be a hero, one's made to be a villain. And this is Justin Trudeau. And it's legit hilarious. So he gets divorced from his wife. And I think you can make fun of him. And my big reason for making fun of him is because what Justin Trudeau loves to do is he likes to, and consistently leverages his own moral virtuosity to interfere in your life and your family's life and your personal decision making. If he didn't do that, if he had never sort of leveraged his I'm a better feminist, I'm a better father, you guys are the cretins, I'm the elite, like if he didn't have this mentality of like, look at me, I am a paragon of virtue, then you know what? Leave his family out of it, right? If he was sort of Stephen Harper-esque or John Chrétien, old school politician, like I go do politics, and he's has some trouble at home, like he cheats on his wife, okay, I don't really care. But Justin Trudeau would often use this as a club against people. So I'm perfectly fine with people making fun of him, make fun of his ex-wife, make fun of the fact that he probably has a sexual relationship with multiple cabinet ministers, male and female. Like that's always been the rap on him. Go ham, and you know he's leaning into it. He's like being a spiteful divorced dad, just like, yo, look at me, I'm with the kid right now. I think it's funny.
Well, I would say they've probably been separated, frankly, for over 2 years, and they probably only met up every single time they needed to do a photo op. My only thing is, like, I don't want to, like, I don't know, like, cheapen divorce in a certain sense, that it's still a bad thing. So that's why I don't really want to ever wade into it too much. I think if you ever talk about it,
is a bad thing, but it's good when it happens to Justin Trudeau.
If I was to ever criticize him or talk about it, I would talk about it from more of this perspective of his image, while not bringing up his family. I think it's more so the only thing I had a problem with it is when people started almost like mocking the family as instead of mocking Trudeau himself. Because I would go at it from the angle that he's an incredibly fake person, and this is why it kind of matters, because it does expose the fact that every single thing he says about himself is effectively a false narrative. He's not actually he's probably not a fantastic father. He's very much, everything he does is very put on and whatnot. So whereas I'm not real, I think that people tactically end up messing up when they go after the family and start kind of making fun of not just Trudeau, but making fun of the family for it.
Oh yeah,
because then Trudeau, then liberals or moderates can look at it and say, look at them mocking this man in his time of crisis. Because most people do not realize that Trudeau probably doesn't even care. He probably hasn't cared of whether they get separated or not for the past 5 years.
Well, this is why it's like kind of so brilliant by Trudeau's thing is like he's baiting people into like attacking his family by like dangling them in front of him. But for me, it's like, I'm not going to go after, like, this is why I support all mockery of Trudeau, his family, his wife, his ex-wife, his kids, his dead father, both the communist one and the less communist one. Like, all of it's fair game. All of it is fair game because Trudeau's dangling in front of you, trying to make you do it. So I'm not going to participate in this media game where, like, it's conservatives where, like, someone in the comments section says something too racy about Justin Trudeau, and we're like, no, we don't support that. No, because you're playing their game. Like, this is the game Trudeau wants to play. So let him dangle his family, you know, make fun of his kids every time he posts them. Like, I don't care because he's the leader, he's the prime minister, and he's leveraged himself, his family, his ideals at all times to interfere in your life. And
I'll put it this way: as soon as he posts,
is a national issue,
okay,
because he's made it so. So
I'll give you that he made it open season as soon as he posted the stupid Barbie tweet and Facebook post. As soon as he did that, then you could make fun of him because he turned into Prince Harry and Meghan Markle saying, we desperately want our privacy, leave us alone, don't follow us into this Barbie theater and make fun of us for wearing pink and being stupid. Like that was obviously, now he just desperately wants attention. Although I will also say, I think a lot of people got baited into the Barbie post because I think he posted that purely to get people angry, where a lot of people thought we've now exposed him because he went to Barbie. Like, he posted the photo himself. He wants you to mock him because I think he's trying to reactivate his liberal base on social media to come and defend him. So
it's so clearly what he's doing. It's so clear what he's doing, which is why I'm not gonna like be like, oh no, people mock Justin Trudeau. I'm like, no, he should be mocked. It's a good thing. We should mock him more, and I'm gonna double down on mocking him. And if anyone calls me out and doubling down, there's only one thing I can do. That's triple down.
Yeah. Well, you're the professional comedian, so I'll leave you to that because that is technically your job description. So I'm not.
That's my job now. Is since we've been C-18, I've been going. If you guys don't know this about me, prior to 2016, I was a stand-up comedian. I started in 2012, and then I met an Iranian refugee. Trudeau was prime minister, we're like, society's going to collapse, right? And then the Trump thing happened, and I started making
Daniel's
videos.
Jewish, and he wasn't a doctor or a lawyer, so he was forced to become a comedian. They actually came to his house and they said, "You're going to have to start being funny."
Well, we drew straws. My older brother got doctor, my younger brother got lawyer, I got comedian. So I was forced into it at a young age, where I wanted to go to medical school. I'd be like, "Mommy, Daddy, give me the science books," and they'd be like, "No, here's a DVD of Dave Chappelle. Watch it." I'm like, "Can I do my homework? Can I do the math?" "No. Watch this."
Here's Dane Cook. You'll like him.
Here's Dane Cook doing stuff. So that's how I was raised, by parents who forced me to at gunpoint in Canada. No, yeah. So once I'm old friends. Ben Bankus and I started doing comedy together. If you know Ben, and we started. I've been doing more comedy because news is now being made illegal, so I have to go back into comedy, and so I spent my nights doing comedy and getting back into that, and I'm going to try and merge them together in some way. We're gonna figure this out, but again, this is what Bill C-18 is forcing me to do. Is like, all right, screw it, got to get back to doing stage time and telling people jokes. And big shout out and thank you to for Ben Bankus for allowing me to, skip the line when getting back in and going into it. But yeah, that's been my life. Is I've been getting back into stand-up comedy because news is illegal. Jokes will be made illegal in like 2 years, but we got a few years. Well, I'm still allowed to do something. I think BJ makes a good point. This is a classic National Telegraph point that I think the three of us agree on. The Conservatives are experts at losing elections because they always step into the Liberal frame and try to win the argument. Will they do the same next election? And the answer is yes, they will, because they can't help themselves.
Well, I honestly, these days, I think they're actually managing their affairs quite a bit better, in the sense that they wouldn't be having this 10-point lead from multiple polling companies right now if they weren't at least shutting up and not jumping all over themselves to try and
what I will say here,
I think they understand that playing to, because I think the Aaron O'Toole loss was so dramatically against the red Tory narrative that I think that even though they're not exactly becoming, hardcore Republican style conservatives these days, I think they understand that there's certain things that you don't say, and there's certain things you don't say, and there's certain narratives and debates you don't wade into if you actually want to win an election. You do not, when the liberal media comes to you and basically tries to make you jump through all the climate change hoops, you just ignore them, because you're never going to win that game. Same thing with a lot of the other progressive stuff. You're never going to out-progressive the liberals, so don't bother. And that's where you have a lot more conservatives now stepping up and supporting people like Premier Blaine Higgs in New Brunswick. They understand that his fight for parental rights is actually winning far more voters than kind of doing this sort of half-hearted, Blaine Higgs can do what he wants and that's his provincial right, but we support children of any orientation and stuff like that. It's just it's not, stop it. You just support the parental rights. 98% of Canadians are in favor of parental rights. Trying to fight over that 2% is ridiculous. So just get out of that sort of stupid framework. Play to your base. That's how the Liberals win. They play to their base, and they grow their base by pleasing those people.
Yeah, so I'll add to my answer. Reform it. I said yes because I'm just so fed up with the Conservative Party. Now, what BJ described is the Aaron O'Toole policy of losership. He's not the first person to do it. We've both written articles on the myth of red Tory mass appeal in some ways from different angles over the years. What I like about Pierre, politically speaking, as someone, if you're on the blue team with a cold analytical mind to just win this, Pierre has a skill, and I've always said, to make his own narrative in a way, right? Pierre can make a 5-minute YouTube video, Facebook video, Twitter video, whatever, that's interesting. You saw his wife put out a video today that went kind of viral. Pierre has the videos where he talk about housing or inflation or this or that. Pierre has a skill to drive conversation around points he's making that are political. So he has a tool that no other conservative leader has had in a while. So he at least has the tools available to do this. So I don't think it will be as bad as Aaron O'Toole. Honestly, Aaron O'Toole is the far end of the spectrum of how bad it can be. And Pierre might be the slightly close to the other end of the spectrum, just how good it can be. Now, there's a severe limit here, right? I'm not saying Pierre is the greatest politician I've ever seen. I'm saying he's probably the best you can ask for.
What he's doing much differently than Aaron O'Toole, and this is the problem with even Harper and Scheer in their elections too, Harper in 2015, Scheer in 2019, is that you couldn't really name the narrative that the Conservatives were running on in any of those previous elections, especially Aaron O'Toole. Like, you couldn't say why you should vote Conservative other than the Liberals aren't very good, vote for Conservative, and that's not compelling. As dumb as it is, in 2015, the Sunny Ways narrative or the Sunny Ways slogan from Justin Trudeau is genius in the sense that it's like just dirt simple. It is positive, and it implies that the Conservatives are dark, shady, and insular by saying Sunny Ways, I'm going to bring the sunlight, blah, blah. Whereas like Aaron O'Toole saying secure the future. Oh goodness! Like I literally have an aversion to securing the future now. I do not want the future to be secure in any way. I want things to be more dangerous and anarchic, because that is the worst slogan I've ever heard in my life. And it's the same thing with Harper in 2015. You couldn't really say why you should vote to keep the Conservatives in government. Basically saying, well, you've done a decent job. The other guys aren't very good. And it's like, that wasn't compelling. Whereas in 2011, the just visiting narrative about Ignatieff coming to basically like steal away the prime ministership, that was brilliant. That worked extremely well. And it basically, and the thing is that the just visiting, it implies that then on the converse side, the Conservatives are here to stay. That's the sort of thing that every slogan has a good inverse that is good too, that's not spoken. So just visiting, the inverse to that is we're here to stay. And right now, I don't think the Conservatives haven't really settled on a slogan I love yet. At the same time, the narrative that Pierre Poilievre is setting is sort of like let's get back to, putting individuals before the government. Whereas Justin Trudeau, you couldn't name what narrative he has to be able to run on during an election. It's basically just like the Conservatives are scary. We're not that bad.
Like, you need to run on something, and attacks are part of it. But again, attacks are much more effective in America than they are in Canada. This is a well-known political fact. Attack ads are much higher risk and lower reward in Canada. That's just the way it is. Not saying you won't see them, but in order to win, you do need to build a positive narrative of yourself. This is one of the big things we've always criticized the PPC on. Is the PPC is just running around throwing haymakers everywhere, and the PPC actually does the best when they build their own narratives. And the data I always use in that is look at Max's first debate. He was doing the best when everyone was attacking him, and he was defending himself and building up the PPC. And then he started to dip when he went on the attack and started talking about dairy pricing and going after Andrew Scheer on such an esoteric issue that only I cared about. And this is sort of where the Liberals are, where the Liberals are kind of just in the Stephen Harper or New Conservative bad. Conservatives bad, we good.
And you can even see them jumping around to stupid issues like Katie Telford trying to say that all Conservatives are now anti-abortion. And I'm pro-life. I'd like that they were all pro-life, but obviously they're not. But Katie Telford saying there's literally not a single pro-choice Conservative because they voted for Bill C-311, which makes it which allows I think it was sentencing upgrades if you punch a pregnant woman in the stomach or assault a pregnant woman.
It was
the most obvious bill on the planet. It doesn't even say abortion in the bill. And they're saying the Conservatives are anti-abortion.
If you assault a pregnant woman, that could be an aggravating factor in say. Like if you brutally beat the hell out of an 8-month pregnant lady and the baby dies, that could be an aggravated factor in sentencing. It's not just assault one person, which is reasonable. But again, you see just the demented nature of the modern left. And this goes back to the problem of the media. Like, how could a function, you can't really get away with a lie of that magnitude. Well, you can now in America because it's so polarized. But, let's say 10 years ago, you couldn't pull that off in America because people at least watch Fox News. And you'd be giving your enemies in Fox News an easy layup to throw back in your face. So that was a big reason why not to lie on CNN. And what kind of kept CNN a bit more sane 10, 15 years ago, would be if they just try to outright lie about something like the Don't Say Gay bill, which never says that. They knew that Fox News would do an expose on CNN lies, Don't Say Gay, and people would see it because there's a large television audience. And it's harder to take a dismissive attitude from CNN to Fox News than it is from, CNN to the Daily Wire, because they're on the same medium, right? CNN can poo-poo online media and CBC can be like, ugh, National Telegraph, all this thing. that's online. We're a real news outlet. That's just over there on the internet. That's not a real one, right? But you had in America a cable television network with anchors and cameras and people on the streets and this and that, and they had a different perspective. So it kind of kept you in line. Like, you had to be better than Fox News in a way. And we've never really had that in Canada. So we've had this politics and muck. And this is another problem of people just going hard into their echo chambers, where now CNN feels totally confident just making shit up, because they know anyone who watches CNN on principle will never watch Fox News, and also on principle will instantly disagree with anything they see on Fox News, or be heavily skeptical of anything that comes off of Fox News. Like, they know that most people, if they are not Fox News watchers, would not be convinced from a detailed, factual explanation of something on Fox News. And that's where we are.
And I guess maybe from there, we'll move on to just talking about Jagmeet Singh and the homophobia lie, because I feel like this one's a bit of a funny story to end off on, since we usually only go for an hour and at the 45-minute mark. And just to lead us in, because I have the video already uploaded, I'm just going to quickly play the video of Jagmeet Singh calling a random passerby heckler a homophobe.
Some of that money. Sure, just we don't want to use that hilarity again. Yeah, no problem. Maybe I'll take a pause if the interview goes on. If not, I'll stay straight.
I am getting him now, but almost can't hear because of the background noise on site.
Your homophobia is very inappropriate. It's very inappropriate. You're driving away and causing an accident.
There you go. So this became a story where the media backed up Jagmeet Singh's assertion that somehow that the driver of that car, and I can, if you listen to it multiple times, I think I've heard things in that what the guy was yelling that you could maybe construe in a way that's like rude or whatever. The homophobic thing's just deeply stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hear what he said. Maybe he called him gay or another word for it, and then you could say, okay, maybe. So you don't hear it, but for me, you're right. The media couldn't hear it. We couldn't hear it. And they went along with Jagmeet Singh lie. And I have seen instances, specifically Jagmeet Singh related, where they've called people racist for going to protest Jagmeet Singh. And I've seen those racist people wearing turbans as believing Sikhs, giving him trouble for anything from sucking at his job to, allowing the Khalistanis to run amok. And these are Sikhs criticizing Jagmeet Singh for being bad at his job. And I've seen them called racist, alt-right people. And Jagmeet's a Sikh. These guys are Sikhs. They're all Canadians. They're having he's a leader of a federal party. I've seen them criticize him pretty harshly and be called racist for it. So there's no reason for me to believe Jagmeet.
Let's even just take it from this angle. Let's pretend the guy fully said something like, you're gay, Trudeau's gay, and that's why you're supporting him, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, maybe people don't like you and they're saying incredibly rude things because you're bad at your job. Maybe have you ever thought about that Jagmeet Singh is taking some flack because he rubber stamps every single thing that Justin Trudeau does. That's never in any of the media coverage, that people are increasingly criticizing Jagmeet Singh because he is a liberal enabler. That never shows up. They always treat him as if he's just acting in pure good faith, and a lot of the stuff he's doing isn't just purely because he's terrified of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, I mean, that's the crux of it. Is everyone's mad at Jagmeet Singh. No one likes him. Outside of his current spouse and Justin Trudeau. See, people are giving Trudeau trouble for failing in his marriage, but they don't realize he has one successful marriage going on right now to Jagmeet. So, tone it down, people, right? He's doing great.
Well, I just want to quickly bring up too just the polling numbers that we've been seeing, and this is one of the ones where the Liberals, the Conservatives are only up by 9 points on the Liberals. We already have two other polls that showed them up 10 points. But I always find the insane thing is how the NDP and a lot of these polls are literally down from their 2021 numbers. Imagine being Jagmeet Singh, having literally the Liberals bleeding out on the floor in front of you, bleeding all their support, and somehow you manage to also shoot yourself in the foot and you're on the floor bleeding out too. There's nothing here that should be causing the NDP to lose support unless they just simply choose to lose support.
There's another thing that's so crazy here, that if you put up the chart, people might think, oh, this is just a that looks like a 1 or 2% drop for the 1% drop for the NDP. Okay, 1% drop. That's not statistically significant. It's actually a much bigger than 1% because the thing with the NDP is they traditionally poll above where they end up getting the votes, right? You saw this in 2021. The NDP were polling much higher. Then when it came down to it, a lot of NDP supporters went, you know what? I don't want the Conservatives in government. I'll vote Liberal.
Well, they
happened
were
to the
polling
PPC.
22%. They could even grab up a 25 every once in a while in the 2021 election. And so on average, I'd say they usually pull 3 or 4 points lower than they pull, or they pull in 3 or 4% less voters on election day than they pull. And yeah, it's the same thing with the PPC these days, is that the PPC still actually polls around 4 or 5% in some cases. And all these by-elections, we've been seeing them at just 1%, just flat 1%. Or like 1.5%. And it's because smaller parties tend to just, are overrepresented in polling because they tend to have the more engaged supporters. That if you're a Green Party or a PPC or an NDP supporter, you're not a confused voter. That you definitely know what you want because you will look for the most obscure thing to vote for. But again, with Jagmeet Singh, if you want to be successful, just hold Trudeau's feet to the fire, threaten federal elections all the time, because it's not like Jagmeet Singh's waiting to become prime minister. He's never going to become prime minister. So when the getting's good, you should get as much as you can. If you're from him, I don't want the NDP to succeed. Their policy would somehow be worse than the Liberals. But it frustrates me as a conservative that he can't properly take advantage of a situation. That when the Liberals are handing you everything when the Liberals could be handing you everything you want because you have them over a barrel, Jagmeet Singh's the one who's more scared of Justin Trudeau still.
Yeah, and the other thing with this, the good news for Conservative Party supporters is, as I said, a lot of NDP polling support, it's built up. People in small parties are more motivated. They're more clear on what they want. They know who they are. They might be more motivated to stick to the end of the poll just to say PPC, to help the PPC because it's small and it needs your help. Whereas if you're a Conservative voter, you're like, okay, the party doesn't need my help. I don't want to talk to this idiot for 10 minutes. Click. That might be more the mentality. But the other thing is the NDP will always bleed into the Liberal vote when it comes around for election time. Like that's something you have to count on. And the smaller the NDP thing is, right? So last election we had maybe 22 to 25%, and that bled down a bit of that into the Liberals and helped push them over the Conservatives. If the NDP is at 16% right now, not all most of those 16% are going to vote. Most of the people say they're going to vote NDP. There is a small portion of them who will then switch to the Liberals late game. But this is an even smaller portion of them. Like this is at most 2%, at very most can shift in. And that's not going to, right, at a 9-point gap, which is the smallest we've seen, this makes it a 7-point gap. Like there isn't the numbers there, like Liberal and NDP combined. There aren't enough numbers there for the Liberals to pull out a victory, which is why you see the projections at 90% chance of Conservatives winning, with that being basically a 50-50 among majority-minority now, whereas the majority government polling was at like around equal for both parties back in the day. Like it was like number one was Conservative minority, that was like the big chance, and then Liberal majority and Liberal and Conservative majority were like neck and neck because the Liberals have a better vote distribution based on the map and the riding system, just whatever. But we're now seeing the gaps getting so bad that a lot of those ridings are now just flipping. So,
and when you actually look at the polling, when you look at provinces that the Liberals hold a lead in, and I know there's provinces like it was like on some of the I forget which province it was. I guess it's like Quebec, or there's one of these other ones where the Liberals came in third, but they won like the most seats or something like that, or they almost won the most seats or whatever. Doesn't matter. But like when you look at most provinces, I think it's only the Atlantic provinces as a whole that the Liberals have like a 1% lead in at the moment. It's literally only a 1% lead, and I guarantee that's mostly a lead leaning heavily on PEI and Newfoundland. Right now, they don't even have a lead in Quebec. They lead the Conservatives in Quebec, but the Bloc leads them by 4% in Quebec. That's deeply pathetic. And that's where even if the NDP falls in their vote, The thing is that the NDP are probably going to fall in all the areas that they were never going to win in the first place. They're probably going to lose a bunch of their rural voters who traditionally might support them because they vote NDP provincially, but they'll probably keep their urban support around Vancouver because those people are the most dogmatic NDP supporters. And that's where you're going to see when there's a lot of Liberals who switch Conservative, or when there's some other people, when there's Union voters who leave the NDP and go join the Conservatives, you're going to see the NDP and the Liberals vote splitting so hard that there's going to be entire cities where you probably didn't think that the Conservatives could win more than maybe like a fifth of the seats, where they might be able to win half of them. That's definitely going to be the situation in the GTA this time. A lot of the seats, even with Aaron O'Toole's incompetence, they were within 3%. Some of them were not that unwinnable. It's just that Aaron O'Toole just does a terrible job driving at the base. But like, to jump back to the NDP, like, man, who is the NDP made for these days? I couldn't name a single person who'd be interested in voting for the NDP other than someone who's like part of a university student union. That's pretty much
it.
I
was about to create an NDP voter that made sense, and you beat me to it. But like the modern NDP voter is left leaning, not very. They're not very, let's say, aware of facts, but they're very aware of issues. So they care very deeply. They went to university. They have a surface level impulse to care about these causes. They might follow some political TikTokers, right? So you get your politics off TikTok, which is like music and being like, homeless people don't have homes. Oh no, rich people have homes. We should give money to the homeless. Like that's TikTok politics. Right. So if this is what you do, and then you have this mentality that, oh, the Liberals are establishment, and you just fall into this thing. Oh, the establishment, like I'm a real left winger, I'm a real socialist. I know literally none of the things. I'm voting NDP. So it's a part.
It becomes an aesthetic, I've heard,
but feel like they do. I think Jordan.
It's like effectively. It's like how the lot of blue collar, and this is what we literally see in the polling. Blue collar union members are actually mostly voting for the Conservatives now, or a plurality of them are voting Conservative. I think it's like 36%.
Jagmeet destroyed the
36%.
union base of the NDP.
Union.
That's why I'll always love Jagmeet. Like people think I hate Trudeau and Jagmeet, but I'm a big Jagmeet Singh fan because I hate the NDP, and no one's done a better job at destroying the NDP than Jagmeet.
But the union voters that Jagmeet Singh now wins, other than the student union voters, which I'm kind of joking about, it's like kids who say they support unions. Those are the union voters that they win, is kids who are deeply, and when I say kids, I mean 28-year-olds who are still act like children. But these young adults who think that they care about the labor movement, girls who have their heads shaved, guys who wear backpacks into their 40s, those are the people who like really deeply care about the labor movement, who vote NDP. Even if they talk to a single blue collar worker, those people would call them morons. And they would say, I'm voting for Pierre because he doesn't insult my family. Because the funny sort of high wire act that the NDP was always sort of doing was that they are the super hyper progressive social party. At the same time, most of their voters are people from ethnic groups that are very socially conservative or blue collar workers who would get canceled if the left actually showed up to construction sites. That's the thing. And now they've basically said all those people are awful and terrible and they should leave them alone. So now they're just trapped with the people who LARP as revolutionaries.
Yeah, I mean, people who LARP as revolutionaries is probably the largest base for the NDP right now.
Yeah.
I'd say
it's the I care more than you crowd, where I think I could even see, I know Liberals who don't like NDP voters because they're basically, Liberals are kind of sanctimonious about the issues they care about. NDPers are basically just like the Puritans of it, of like walking into a room and saying that they care more about homelessness than everyone else. I'm willing to kill the rich for homelessness. Like, cool, dude.
Yeah, that's the support base of the NDP. And you're right, like these. And I think there's going to be a big wake up, especially in these communities, like this intersectional critical race theory stuff. There's only a few fringe groups who benefit from it, right? Like there's like the diversity officer, the Kenji Thompson woman who got the guy to commit suicide. You could say like, yeah, Black Canadians, and I'm not to mind, Black people here, but you could see, I'm just saying, you could say, okay, if I'm a Black Canadian, you could say, okay, I could benefit from this critical race theory stuff. I could just claim everything's racism. And this and that, and there's not a lot of pushback there, right? Okay, and then you could get other ones, but other than that, like you start to see like Muslim was very in vogue for the intersectional crowd until liberals found out that the Quran doesn't say Muhammad was a non-binary, polyamorous, person with
Furkin.
account. Like the Quran says the same thing about gays that every other religion does, and they're starting to learn this. So we're seeing a big push at that community. As I brought up before, the Hindu community, they get attacked by Khalistanis and Islamists all the time, and no one says anything. They don't benefit. Jews, we don't benefit from the intersectional stuff. Same thing as the Hindus, right? We get attacked by lefties and Islamists, right-wing people too, but the bigger ones are the communists and the Islamists who come after us. We don't benefit from intersectionality. In fact, we get hurt by it more. And this thing really appeals to, the whitewashed second generation immigrants whose parents didn't really teach them about their culture. So they just adopt this new thing to fit in. But that's a fleeting fan base because a lot of those people will grow up and grow out of it. And, it eats itself. You've seen this where you can't put, I think someone had a good joke. Was it, I don't remember Ben, but I mean, it's easy to joke about like this stuff where you see like, all of a sudden, the Muslim groups and the LGBTQIA groups, they're not,
Well, it's going back to what I said. It's just that a lot of liberal ideology relies on a lot of contradictions being held without being noticed. And now that there's certain things that are forcing them to sort of notice that their intersectional coalition doesn't exactly get along for good reasons in a lot of cases. Muslim parents do care about parental rights, and of one side of but the left, which is funny, is that they are literally backing the sort of elements in their intersectional coalition who want to basically cram down on the other ones. So they're backing the ones that are being most divisive because, because they're deeply afraid of that group of people, even if in the intersectional stack that they have, the sort of like radical social activists, the radical progressive social activists are actually probably the smallest portion of the liberal base. Any ethnic group probably outweighs them in terms of the vote because it turns out most Canadians are not social progressives that are like point their fingers at people like, why are you a bigot, blah, blah, free speech is like the code for Nazism, blah, blah, blah. Those people are not very popular with most people, yet the liberals are most terrified of them because they think other people should be terrified of them.
Yeah. All right. And I think that brings us to we've done an hour this week. We'll be back next week. I think Thursdays is probably a good day for this.
Yeah, we'll probably always be a Tuesday, Thursday kind of a thing. But I just want to be able to make sure to plug it again. We just have a Give, Send, Go. I'm just throwing the link in the chat right now just to be able to fund the National Telegraph. Bill C-18 is going to severely impact our ability to get our news in front of people and have our ads viewed so that we're effectively getting no money because of Justin Trudeau. So if you can just throw 5, 20, 50 into the pot, that really helps us maintain all of our websites and our lists, because even just to maintain our email list so that we can keep people updated with our content, that costs us around $150 a month. So it's not one of those things where I'm just like, give us $5 and then I'm like, I'm somehow raking it in somewhere else, or I have no cost. So why do I need money? We actually do have quite steep costs.
And I love how we did a Give, Send, Go, which is very Christian, and they gave us the URL gay 4K.
Yeah, this is gay content in 4K.
Yeah, so that if you're worried about the Canadian government coming after you for donating on Give, Send, Go to the National Telegraph, don't say that. Say you donated to gay 4K, and they'll give you the Medal of Honor or whatever, the Order of Canada. So
guys, give us money, get the Medal of Honor, and we'll see you back here next week at the same bat time and same bat place, but I'll probably be in a different location. So disregard
different
everything.
Bat time, slightly different bat place, but still.
Yeah. But Jagmeet Singh will still be an idiot. So there's a constant in your life there. So anyways, we'll see you all next week.